For years, fans of Barnwood Builders tuned in to see Johnny Jett work magic out of old, forgotten barns. But lately, something has felt different. Whispers began to spread online. Posts on Facebook, threads on Reddit, and fan groups on YouTube comments, all asking the same haunting question: what really happened to Johnny Jett? And as you're about to discover, the truth behind it is far more human and far more emotional than most people realize. When Barnwood Builders first premiered on the DIY network back in 2013, it was supposed to be about a team, a group of West Virginian craftsmen turning crumbling barns into beautiful homes. But from the very first season, one man stood out. Johnny Jett wasn't the loudest. He wasn't the leader. But there was something about him, that easy smile, his old-school wisdom, his gentle sense of humor. Every time Johnny appeared on screen, it was like time slowed down. He didn't just rebuild barns, he rebuilt memories. He treated every nail, every beam, every relic as if it carried a soul. And fans noticed. They called him the heart of Barnwood Builders. Some said he reminded them of their fathers or grandfathers, humble men who worked with their hands, who didn't chase fame but earned respect. But here's where things took a turn. In late 2021, fans started noticing something unusual. Johnny was appearing less often in episodes. Sometimes, entire segments went by without a single frame of him. Then came the rumors. A few blog posts claimed he had passed away. Others said he had retired quietly, walking away from the cameras for good. And some even spread darker theories, that there was tension among the cast, or that something tragic had happened behind the scenes. Every fan forum lit up with questions. Why isn't Johnny Jett on Barnwood Builders anymore? Is he okay? Did something happen? The show never addressed it directly, and the silence only made the mystery grow louder. But what most people didn't realize is that Johnny Jett's story runs much deeper than television. Before fame ever found him, Johnny Jett was already a legend in his hometown of Fleming County, Kentucky. Born on April 28, 1949, he grew up during a time when everything was built by hand. His fascination with old barns didn't come from nostalgia, it came from necessity. He learned early how to build, fix, and restore because he had to. And in that simplicity, he found beauty. For decades, Johnny worked quietly in the background. He wasn't chasing television dreams or fame. He was building barns, repairing old wood, and living close to the land. When Barnwood Builders creator Mark Bowe found him, it wasn't through an audition. It was through reputation. Johnny was the real deal, the kind of craftsman you can't fake on camera. So when the show began, Johnny's charm wasn't scripted. His jokes weren't rehearsed. He was simply himself, and that was enough to win the hearts of millions. But the fame came with a cost. Behind every project, every episode, every smile, there was exhaustion. Barn restoration isn't easy. It's long days, dangerous work, and physical strain that doesn't care how old you are. Johnny, even in his 70s, refused to slow down. He was often the first one on set and the last one to leave. He didn't like sitting still. But the truth was, his body was beginning to feel it. Long-time viewers noticed the signs. He moved slower. He took more breaks. His hands, once steady and strong, sometimes trembled as he lifted heavy beams. Yet he kept going. Because for Johnny, this wasn't just a job. It was his calling. And that's what makes what happened next so heartbreaking. Season after season, fans tuned in for more heartwarming restorations, but one particular episode marked a quiet turning point. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big announcement. But if you watched closely, you could feel it. In that episode, Johnny stood back, letting the younger crew members take the lead. He smiled, nodded, offered advice, but he wasn't the one climbing, lifting, or hammering. And when the episode ended, something felt final. The music played, the barn stood tall, but there was an unspoken goodbye hidden in that smile. That was when the speculation began to turn into fear. Was this Johnny Jett's last episode? After that season aired, Johnny seemed to vanish. He stopped appearing in public events, and his social media presence, which had always been modest, went completely silent. Fans flooded his Facebook page with messages of concern. Some even reached out to the production company. But no one seemed to have an answer. Then, months later, a small update appeared. Not from Johnny himself, but from a close associate of the Barnwood Builders crew. It said simply, "Johnny is alive, well, and enjoying some much-deserved rest." That one line put an end to the death rumors, but not the curiosity. Because if Johnny was okay, Why did he disappear from the show that made him a household name? To understand that, you have to understand Johnny Jett himself. He never wanted fame. He didn't care about followers or cameras. For him, Barnwood Builders was never about being on TV, it was about keeping history alive. The barns, the beams, the craftsmanship, that's what mattered. And when television started demanding more stories, more production, more travel, the simple joy of building began to fade. Johnny was old-fashioned. He believed in staying true to the work, not the show. And as production schedules tightened and the industry evolved, it became harder to balance both. So, quietly and gracefully, Johnny began to step back. He chose peace over publicity, simplicity over fame. In the end, Johnny didn't vanish because of drama. He didn't leave because of conflict. He simply wanted time. Time to rest, time to create on his own, time to be with family. And maybe, just maybe, he knew that if he stayed too long, he'd no longer love what he did. Stepping away was his way of protecting that love, of keeping the work sacred. That's something only a craftsman would understand. Even though Johnny Jett stepped back, he never truly left. He still works quietly with wood in his own shop, creating handmade art and custom pieces, the same way he's done his whole life. And from time to time, he still appears in local projects or behind-the-scenes moments with Barnwood Builders. He's not gone. He's simply living life on his own terms. But the story doesn't end there. Because what happened after Johnny left the screen, the emotional toll it took on the crew, the way fans responded, and how Barnwood Builders changed forever, is a story worth hearing. And that's exactly what we'll explore. Because as you'll see, Johnny's absence didn't just change the show, it left a mark. When Johnny Jett quietly stepped back from Barnwood Builders, the show didn't just lose a craftsman. It lost its soul. Because Barnwood Builders was never just about barns. It was about the people. And Johnny was the heartbeat of it all. Fans who had followed the show from the beginning said it felt different without him. The laughter wasn't quite as loud. The builds didn't feel quite as personal. Even the background music seemed quieter. But what most didn't see was what was happening behind the cameras, how the crew reacted, how the show evolved, and how Johnny's influence never truly went away. When the cameras rolled again for the next season, everyone felt it. That Mark space Bow, Johnny used the team leader and Johnny's longtime friend, tried to keep the spirit alive. He kept cracking jokes, reminding the crew of Johnny's sayings, even mimicking his playful sarcasm. But there was an unspoken understanding among them. No one could replace Johnny Jett. There were moments, quiet pauses, when Mark would pick up an old tool Johnny used to use, and you could almost see the memories running through his eyes. It wasn't just about losing a co-worker. It was losing a part of the team's history. When Johnny Jett stepped back from Barnwood Builders, fans thought it might be the beginning of the end. After all, how could the crew carry on without the man who had been its heart since the start? But the truth is, while Johnny's quiet exit left a hole no one could fill, it also marked the start of something unexpected. The show began to evolve. The team began to adapt. And the story of Barnwood Builders didn't end. It entered a new chapter. When Johnny left, Mark had to steer that fame in a new direction. He began focusing on growing his business, Barnwood Living, into something bigger. A brand, a movement, a lifestyle that kept the same authenticity the show was built on. Today, Barnwood Living operates out of White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, a showroom, store, and community hub rolled into one. Mark and his crew sell custom furniture, home pieces, and decor made from reclaimed materials, all infused with that same rustic charm fans saw on TV. He also expanded into motivational speaking, sharing lessons about craftsmanship, hard work, and finding purpose in doing what you love. It's not hard to see how much of Johnny's philosophy lives in his words. Because while Mark may have been the face of the show, Johnny was the quiet influence that shaped his message. Value what's old, honor what's real, and never forget where you came from. Sherman Thompson, Mark's childhood friend and co-star, has been part of Barnwood Builders since day one. And in many ways, he became the glue that held the team together when Johnny stepped back. Sherman was the kind of guy who didn't need the spotlight. He was steady, reliable, the problem solver of the crew. Whenever a wall collapsed, a beam split, or a lift went wrong, Sherman was the one who found a way to make it work. After Johnny's exit, Sherman quietly took on more leadership on site. He brought a sense of balance, a mix of humor and focus that reminded viewers of the old days. Fans often say Sherman became the heart of the later seasons. Away from the cameras, Sherman still lives in West Virginia, spending time with his wife Roma and their 2 daughters. His not chasing celebrity life, his living the same simple values the show was built on. If Johnny was the philosopher and Mark the visionary, Tim Rose was the humor. Fans loved his easy laughter, his quirks, and the way he could turn any challenge into a funny story. But what many viewers don't realize is that Tim was one of the most skilled craftsmen on set. He was a veteran of the US Air Force before becoming a barn restorer, bringing precision and discipline to every project. After Johnny's departure, Tim continued to feature on Barnwood Builders for several seasons, keeping that warm, down-to-earth tone that made the show relatable. In recent years, however, he's scaled back filming too, preferring quieter days at home in Virginia with his family, still crafting, still working with his hands, but at his own pace. When asked once about Johnny's absence, Tim said something that summed it up perfectly. Johnny didn't leave. He just built his life the way he wanted. And isn't that what we've all been doing from the start? When Barnwood Builders started bringing in younger talent, one name stood out: Graham Ferguson. He joined the crew during the show's later seasons, bringing energy and a deep respect for the team's legacy. Graham wasn't trying to fill anyone's shoes, least of all Johnny Jett's, but his passion for the craft and genuine respect for the old ways made fans warm up to him fast. He became something of a bridge between generations, someone who could keep the work modern while never forgetting the traditional skills that built the foundation of Barnwood Builders. Now, Graham often represents the new face of the series, collaborating with Mark on large projects, promoting sustainable building, and keeping that same love for Appalachian history alive. His proof that while faces may change, the heart of Barnwood Builders still beats the same. Then there's Alex Webb, the soft-spoken yet strong builder who joined the team later on. A military veteran like Tim, Alex brought a calm energy and quiet discipline to the show. After joining Barnwood Builders, he became a fan favorite for his politeness, work ethic, and deep respect for the older craftsmen. In 2021, Alex surprised fans by announcing his departure from the show. The reason? To spend more time with his family and start his own independent construction business. When fans asked if he'd ever return, he smiled and said, "Once you've worked with guys like Mark and Johnny, you never really leave. You just keep building, wherever you are." That statement became symbolic of the Barnwood spirit. You never really say goodbye. You just keep crafting your own story. Even after multiple departures, Johnny, Tim, Alex, Barnwood Builders didn't collapse. If anything, it adapted. When DIY Network rebranded under the Magnolia Network, part of Chip and Joanna Gaines' media empire, many wondered if Barnwood Builders would still fit the new vision. It did, beautifully. Because unlike many other shows, Barnwood Builders wasn't built on drama. It was built on heart. The friendship, humor, and genuine skill of the team made it timeless. The format may have changed a little, fewer episodes per season, tighter storytelling, but the message stayed the same. Preserve the past, build with love, and never forget the stories behind the wood. Though Johnny rarely gives interviews, those close to him say he's proud of what the show became. He keeps in touch with Mark and the crew, occasionally visiting the workshop or calling in to share a laugh. He's seen how his legacy continues, through the new builders, through the fans who still post old clips of him online, and through the spirit of restoration that Barnwood Builders continues to inspire. One of his former co-workers once said, "Johnny doesn't need to be on camera to be part of the show. His fingerprints are everywhere." And that's true, because Barnwood Builders was never about fame. It was about family. So, where is Barnwood Builders now? It's still standing, stronger than ever, still inspiring, still reminding people that things, and people, can be restored. The show has become more than just a renovation series. It's a time capsule of values, hard work, humility, and heart. And while Johnny Jett's full-time days on camera may be over, his influence has never faded. Every time a new barn rises, every time Mark pauses to talk about history or family, Johnny's voice echoes through the timber. Because what he built wasn't just barns. He built belief, in simplicity, in craftsmanship, and in the quiet power of a man doing what he loves. The truth is, Barnwood Builders didn't lose Johnny Jett. It simply carried him forward, in every nail, every beam, and every story still being told. And that's why, even after all these years, fans keep asking, where's Johnny Jett? Because deep down, they know the answer. He never really left.